It's funny because I actually have my other video uploading right now, but good evening everyone to another episode of... So on today's episode, it's Otaku again, the sequel. But he felt the need to clarify some things in his response of a response of a response. So, I'm going to give him a response to his response of everyone else's response. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to be doing this in a very short form because I don't feel like editing a large video today. Because fuck you. I wrote these out of boredom. It's a hobby, and I didn't claim to be this great writer. Before we start into this, by the way, I would just like to say, the theme of today's episode is probably going to be, just because there are people into it, and just because it's fake, doesn't make it right. I wrote these out of boredom. It's a hobby. And I didn't claim to be this great writer. Don't worry, we didn't claim that either. Just because it's a hobby doesn't make it right that you write about 16, 15, 14, possibly 13-year-olds in sexually promiscuous situations. Maybe it will work though. I'll make it work. I wouldn't have put them out in public. If I got off to these stories, I wanted people to see it. Okay? Just because there are people who are into it doesn't make it okay. There are a bunch of pedophiles out there who haven't actually touched a kid yet, but they're still into this, and they're still not getting treated, but instead they're looking at these stories thinking, wow, I wish. And also you tried to put on like the demographic thing as well. Oh, fucking come on! Oh, are you fucking serious? Now you tried to bring out the demographic argument in terms that, you know, these aren't pedophiles who are looking at my stories. The majority of them are probably in the ages of, 17, 16, all those people when it comes to porn and hentai. Okay, I have a question for you. Why are you trying to pleasure 17, 16, 15-year-olds? But seriously though, when you have porn out there, sure, the people that are making it, know that teenagers are a huge demographic in their numbers. But you also have to counter in one other factor. The people that they star in their porn are 18 years and over, sometimes 21, because in some states that's the law. I think. I could be wrong. Whoa. Bottom line is, they're not children. People enjoy these things. I know it's hard to believe for you guys, because, you say that, we say, you don't like anime, no, you say that, we don't like anime, and we also say that people don't like hentai. No one has a problem with anime or hentai. It's a different form of porn, okay? People can watch it, people get off to whatever the hell they want, that's fine. But when you start to include characters who are 16, 15, 14, and 13, a cause for disarray, I'm sorry, it's set to happen. You can't expect to write about kids this young getting into sexual situations and not get some flack for it. I'm sorry. You have a YouTube channel called The Phantom Anime Reviewer, and you review hentai, and you said that not only do you have 75 subscribers, but you also get 1,000 to 3,000 views on your hentai reviews. Now, you tried to brag as if 75 subscriptions from 1,000 to 3,000 viewerly basis was like a braggadocious thing, but trust me, mate, it's not. it's really poor. It shows that you're a poor anime reviewer. You know what, I'm actually going to address it seriously. Okay, sure, there's an audience out there for hentai, and I know that was the point you were trying to make. But here's the thing. We don't care that you watch hentai. We know that there's an audience out there that enjoys hentai. But when you are including people that include 16, 15, 14... you also brought up this point that sex sells. And again, you tried comparing jokes. Okay, we get it. Sex sells. And you know what? It does. In hentai and anime, it does. You made that point, and it's fine. But our problem isn't that it sells. Our problem... You know what? Our problem is that it sells. Because people are not only into this, but you're writing this. And it's not because it's hentai or because it has anime-based, relations. It's because it has kids who are 16, 15, and 14, and 13 in sexually promiscuous situations. Now, of course, this was a point that you made up, because we did say that you were playing the main guy in these stories. Honestly, that was a bit more of a goof than it was actual fact. The majority of people who write these, they're sick. And I'm sorry, but you're sick, mate. for putting 60... I'm kidding. No, I'm not going to do that again. The main... this is more of a goof than it was, actual fact. I mean, if one of us portrayed it as actual fact and you actually thought that we were being serious, I'm very sorry. I'm sorry if we gave off the idea that we were being serious when we said that, you're putting yourself as the main character in these stories. I'm sorry about that. But, it doesn't help when you are currently writing material that has yourself in it. And if you're saying, well, no, that's not true, I don't have anything like that. Ore Monogatari Seji's love story. You not only mention that this is an overweight otaku, but it has the name Seji in it. And that's that's your username, sorry. In your fucking little fanfiction channel. This wasn't really a conflict, man. You don't understand some parts of the fanfiction because you haven't watched the original source material. Okay. How does that justify pedophilic ass rape? Now, you may be confused because it did say pedophilic ass rape. Okay, sure. The main character, Leto, was 16. Amy was 15. It still doesn't dispel the fact that he ass raped her. You said that, anime and, hentai sometimes, I guess, fanfiction writing, it's an escape. It's just for me, I have fucking video games and, I have, movies and I have friends as that escape from reality. Go on a trip, for fuck's sake. Go to the beach, You want to talk about an escape from reality? Go fucking mountain hiking or something like that. It seems like you need it. Just look at the pretty views. That shit's an escape from reality. This fucking, I'm gonna write some fan fiction about a 16, 15-year-old ass raping. No. It's not a good escape. You also said that we can't really apply real-world logic to something that's fictional. And, you can. Okay, I understand. It's a cartoon, it's fictional, sometimes it's gonna dispel the realms of reality, and that's understandable. But it still doesn't change the fact that these characters are 16, 15, 14, and 13. But there's no age of consent, you say, in a fictional world. Sure, but you mate, you're 20 or over that. I'm not entirely sure how old you are. But you are 20 or 17, I don't know, maybe I'll ask someone. Maybe they'll know. But you're that age, and you're imagining 13 to 14-year-olds wanting to have a romance with their brother, 14 to 15-year-olds having sex with a 16-year-old, and 16-year-olds ass raping a 15-year-old. Do you understand what my problem is here? And what other people's problems are? You said that there's no such thing as a legal consent age in the fictional world. Okay, so let me tell you something. So, a movie gets released, and in that movie, it has a scene of children or whatnot getting, in sexually promiscuous situations. And sure, there have been movies, mind you, that do have that, but it's really shining a light on, how terrible it is. Because that's usually the movies that, win Oscars or get some sort of mention by the Academy. You know, when it's really shining a light on world issues. Some it might be, you know, getting married off, you know, into another family when you don't want to. Or, you know, child sex slaves, you know, that's fine. But what you're doing is writing stories where these kids are voluntarily getting into incestual situations, arse raping one another, and then not saying that the arse rape is terrible. I mean, you did say, like, you know, oh, he's laying over on the desk and he feels the weight of the situation. But later in the library, when he gets told that it's a terrible thing, he still gets hard. And then later in the story, the girl who was arse raped wants to be with the guy who arse raped her. Do you understand my point here? I hope you do. Now, on this point, you said that that, you know, they're a year or 2 years apart, so, you know, it can't be classified as pedophilia. Okay, in this fictional world or whatever it is. Okay, I know there's no consent age. Sorry. Let's say in the real world, a 16-year-old has sex with a 15-year-old. Let's say it's in Australia, because why the fuck not? Because 16 is legal age. Still statutory rape. Sure, they're a year apart or whatever. Okay, so I guess it normalizes it a little bit more, sure. But still, you are a 20-year-old, you look 20, I'm sorry, maybe you're not. But you're a 20-year-old who, a grown man, let's just go with that, a grown man who writes stories about 16, 15, and 14-year-olds having sex with each other. Do you understand? And just because I made it doesn't make it pedophilia. Well, I mean, you're a grown man, imagining these kids in these situations. You know, it's not pedophilia, sure, you're not touching actual 15, 16-year-old kids, but it's still, you know, it still damages your moral fiber there, your moral character, maybe, or your moral high ground. It damages your place on the hierarchy because you're writing stories. I can't say it again. It's just, you get the point. By the way, at this point, there was still no mention of the arse rape. Now, you tried to write it off at the very end, like, oh, you know, it's just some rape or whatever, you know, like the very end, as if it was just like a nothing topic, like that wasn't one of our main gripes with the story. I believe your point was, rape was, you know, my tool to make an interesting story. Now, you know, and that also they use it in movies and TV shows. Now, sir. Now, to respond to this point, and trust me, it's very stupid. When people are usually cast in movies and TV shows and written into stories as the rapist, guess what? They're usually the villain. But in your story, the guy, the rapist, the person who had sex with a 14-year-old, mind you, committing one of the most indecent acts, the guy who was cast doing all those things was your hero, your protagonist. You see my point, and you should see all my other points. I don't know how to end this video properly.